wasn't as traumatizing as people made it out to be, but also I watched it once and was like, maybe I should have stayed curious. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be ranking the most unhinged pop culture moments of 2024, because what better way to celebrate the ending of this year? This year was so rough, so bad. Disclaimer, a lot of shit happened this year, good and bad, but this year unfortunately included a lot of really dark shit. I won't be ranking anything P. Diddy related, anything regarding crimes of famous people this year or celebrity deaths, because that feels wrong. Those things are awful and tragic. I also won't be ranking the US election. I've already grieved on this channel by ranking frogs, and I will get so stressed out if I start talking about it. For the tiers, I try to make them on theme for 2024. Did I do a good job? I don't know. It is what it is. At the top is holding space for these. This is like, yes, the best pop culture moments of this year. This is what I became an internet gremlin for. The second tier is you know what, hell yeah, which means you know what, hell yeah. Third is okay, but the brat version. This means like, okay, I don't really care about this, but with the flair. Second to last is the world tour, which means this is not the worst thing to happen to the general population. However, like Justin Timberlake's world tour, it is insignificant. And the last tier is it ends with these, which means no, absolutely not. And first off, we have the Wicked press tour, more specifically the holding space meme. This is one of the more recent pop culture moments. So Wicked just came out, and the movie stars Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, so they've been on this press tour for the movie, and it is just the emotional gift that keeps on giving. There's a lot of things about this press tour that's caught the attention of the internet, from Jeff Goldblum learning what a zaddy is to Jonathan Bailey making an I think we all sing joke. People have also pointed out how often Ariana and Cynthia cry in their interviews, and for context, they're both musical theater kids / Broadway actors. Wicked has been a lifelong dream of theirs, and so of course this entire project is very emotional for them, and honestly, as someone who did theater, none of this is surprising to me. Yeah, theater kids are this emotional. Also, post-show depression is so real. My favorite and the most viral moment from this press tour was when the holding space for Wicked meme happened. So basically, this interviewer named Tracy E. Gilchrist opened her interview with Cynthia and Ariana by telling Cynthia people are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that and feeling power in that. To which Ariana and Cynthia responded very emotionally, and Cynthia started crying, and Ariana held not 2, not 5, but 1 of Cynthia's fingers.
I've seen this week, people are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that and feeling power in that. Would you touch on that moment in the film when Elphaba has been banished, and yet she comes into her full power at that moment of the worst time?
I didn't know that was happening.
I've seen it, yeah.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was happening.
And this went viral in like a very light-hearted way, but also people were like, what does holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity even mean? And then the interviewer clarified what she meant by saying it means being fully open to something and not being cynical, to hear something, maybe a song like Defying Gravity that you've heard hundreds of times, and to have it hit you in a new way. If it was a few years ago, I might have said people are feeling seen. You can feel seen by a work of art or a song or another person, so I think it can be very similar. So it essentially means that you're really resonating with the lyrics, like you just resonate with them in a very powerful way, and I just think that it's a relatively wholesome pop culture meme of this year, so I'm gonna hold space for it, ironically, at the top. Next is the movie Challengers, simply because everyone was talking about this movie when it came out earlier this year. It's me, I'm everyone. That's so crazy. This movie did so much for churros and bisexuals. And I gotta hold space for all churro lovers, Zendaya fans, and bisexuals. There's like a triple Venn diagram, and if you're lucky, if you're really, really lucky, you're in the middle. And I'm holding space for you, so I'm gonna put Challengers in the second tier. Next is JoJo Siwa's rebrand and her invention of gay pop. So JoJo Siwa is a public figure, and she has been ever since she was a little kid on the dance reality show Dance Moms, and for the longest time she had a very kid-friendly, feminine image. Like, this was her back in 2020. Earlier this year though, she teased this new rebranding of her image, which would be this darker, bad girl, edgier image with the song Karma, which was like, honestly, and I don't even mean this in a hate bandwagon way, it just wasn't a good song. The dance is not good. The music video wasn't as traumatizing as people made it out to be, but also I watched it once and was like, maybe I should have stayed curious. And for the most part, I'm ranking her just being memed so much for this rebranding and for this song and for this dance. But she did get a lot of backlash for saying that she was going to invent gay pop in a Billboard interview.
I said it back in the day when I first signed with Columbia. I said, I want to start a new genre of music. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's called gay pop. And they were like, what's that? And I was like, it's like K-pop, right? But it's gay pop.
Which of course she got backlash for, because gay pop has existed since long before she was even born, and people thought it was discrediting a lot of queer artists throughout time, especially Black queer artists, because they are the backbone of pop music and they are often overlooked and discredited for their artistic and cultural contributions. And she did take it back and correct herself, but her rebranding, it just has to go in the 4th tier. Next is the rise of Chappell Roan. We should all know Chappell Roan by now. She's your favorite artist's favorite artist. She rose to fame this year when she released her single Good Luck Babe back in April, and it's been the fastest climb to success overnight that I've seen in anyone in a really long time. Her music is incredible, her vocals and her stage presence are insane. Although when she did skyrocket to fame, I did think, the clock is ticking, because people are going to turn on her. Because that's usually what happens with a very popular female musician, which happened to Chappell. And honestly, if you want my thoughts, Nicole Raffi pretty much summed up what I think in a video of hers about all the stuff that people have come after Chappell for. I think Chappell definitely said things that could have been worded better, but ultimately I know what she meant. But I think her music, her project, her standing up for herself deserves flowers, so I'm gonna put her at the top. Next is Sabrina Carpenter's rise to fame, which followed the release of her song Espresso, which is the most streamed song of this year. And then she hard launched her relationship with Barry Keoghan, and then she released Taste, and then she released Short and Sweet, which got her a bunch of Grammy nominations. I am of the personal opinion that the songs that weren't singles are the best songs, like Sharpest Tool and Lie to Girls. I think her music is very fun, and she's been working really hard over the last decade for this, but personally, it's not my favorite pop culture moment, so I'm gonna put it in the 2nd tier. What I will say is my favorite Sabrina Carpenter moment of this year is her getting a mayor indicted and a priest demoted. Now, this is something I literally forgot happened this year because it was for a music video that was shot last year for her last album. So Sabrina filmed a quote-unquote provocative scene for her Feather music video in a Brooklyn church, which got her a ton of backlash because people were saying she was disrespecting the church, the religion, etc., etc. And she just responded lightly with quips like, Jesus was a carpenter, but she was also like, hey, I got approval of this. Like, it is not my problem that they're the ones that said yes to it, because they could have said no. So because of this controversy, the priest that approved it, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he apologized and an investigation opened up. And they recently found that he was allegedly mishandling nearly $2 million in parish funds, and they found unauthorized financial transfers, including to a former aide involved in a federal corruption probe in Mayor Eric Adams's administration. And this led to his removal from all pastoral and governance roles at the Brooklyn church. Like, this is some pop diva shit right here, so I'm gonna put this one at the top. Next is Saoirse Ronan calling out Paul Mescal on the Graham Norton show. So Saoirse Ronan and Paul Mescal were on the Graham Norton show last month with Denzel Washington and Eddie Redmayne. And at some point during the interview, Eddie Redmayne was telling them about how he was taught how to use his phone in an attack when he was training for his role as an assassin. And Paul Mescal questioned how realistic it is to pull out your phone and use it. And I think at some point he made a remark that was sort of along the lines of, who's thinking about that? Who's thinking about using their phone if they're being attacked? To which Saoirse Ronan was like, well, girls have to think about that all the time.
Of your phone to go for the
Who's
neck.
actually going to think about that? If someone attacks me, I'm not going to go phone.
I didn't think
Hang on a second. Sorry, Mom, 1 second.
That's what girls have to think about all the time.
Yeah.
Am I right, ladies?
And this obviously went viral because a lot of women, myself included, do have to think about this shit all the time. And a lot of us do really wish that men were more conscious about how we do think about our safety so much more than they do. So for the most part, this sparked a lot of online discourse in terms of how cis men think about their safety versus other people. But also there are a lot of jokes being made at Paul Mescal's expense for being the one to prompt Saoirse's response. And they both responded very gracefully to this going viral, and I think I'm going to put it in you know what, hell yeah, because if this gives us the space to talk about how we fear for our lives constantly. Wonderful. The next pop culture moment from this year is Amelia de Moldenberg and Andrew Garfield's chicken chop date. Amelia de Moldenberg is one of the queens of YouTube and talk shows. She has a YouTube segment called Chicken Chop Date where she invites a famous guest to go on a quote-unquote first date with her at a chicken shop. Now, she's also a red carpet interviewer, and the lore with Andrew Garfield goes back a couple years. It started at the 2022 GQ Men of the Year Awards, which, first of all, I didn't know GQ had an award show for men. That's just new information to me. Anyway, Andrew and Amelia meet, they're flirty, then in 2023 they meet again at the Golden Globe Awards and they're flirting again, and everyone on the internet is like, oh my god, we need a chicken chop date now with him.
Hi.
Hi. How are you? We must stop meeting like this.
I only ever want to see you.
What?
That's not the end of the sentence. That's not the end of the sentence.
Then lo and behold, in October, when promoting his movie We Live in Time, Andrew and Amelia finally have their chicken chop date. And the thing about Amelia's dates is that she usually puts on this awkward persona, or not persona, but she leans into the awkwardness for the humor of it. Like, it's just a mix of very awkward but very charming, dry humor, and it's very funny, and usually she's the one that throws off her guest, but in this one, Andrew was the one throwing her off. And I think I am generally a sensible individual, but this is delulu enough for me to care about, so I am invested in this timeline, and I'm gonna put this one at the top. Next is Io Adebri and J-Lo's beef, like pseudo beef. So this past February, Io Adebri was hosting an episode of SNL with J-Lo as a musical guest. But in the week leading up to the episode, a 2020 episode of the podcast Scam Goddess resurfaced on social media, and it went viral because in response to a claim that J-Lo's career is one long scam, Io Adebri said, well, that's the thing, she thinks she's on multiple tracks, but it's not her. I think she thinks that she's still good even though she's not singing for most of these songs. A lot of the write-ups of the songs will be like, J-Lo didn't have time to make it in the studio. Like, J-Lo was busy. Doing what? Not singing, obviously. And so a lot of people were like, oh my god, they're beefing, I can't believe this. And did anyone care? No. Not even Io Adebri and J-Lo cared. Like, J-Lo was like, yeah, she came up to me and she apologized, but like, we're fine. So I'm gonna put it in the 4th tier, not the 3rd, because like, leave this Irish princess alone. And finally, we have Charli XCX's album Brat and its prominence this year. When Charli XCX dropped her puke green covered Brat album, she made history. Feral, hedonistic, with a hint of middle school Tumblr. Charli XCX described the album as me, my flaws, my fuck-ups, my ego all rolled into one. Beautiful. Like the memes, the Halloween costumes, the SNL skits, this was pretty iconic, but I will have to knock it down a peg because of the commodification of Brat, like all the H&M, Forever 21, PacSun campaigns of it. No, however, the spirit of Brat Summer still lives on, so I'm gonna put this one in the 2nd tier. Next is the It Ends With Us drama. Basically, Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively had two very different visions for this project, and they feuded over it, and they went on completely different press tours. I have a video on all Colleen Hoover related controversies, which covers this, so I've pretty much said my piece. This was just super messy and not fun for literally anyone, so I'm putting this one at the bottom. Next is the Summer Olympics. Who didn't enjoy the Summer Olympics? The opening ceremony and its controversy, Ilona Maher, Anthony Ammirati, Leon Marchand. The Summer Olympics, although not my favorite, was very fun, so I'm gonna put this one in the 2nd tier. And now we have Katy Perry's flop era. So Katy Perry made a lot of decisions this year, and one of them was to work with Dr. Luke, or she has worked with Dr. Luke, but she continued to work with Dr. Luke. And if you don't know, he is the producer that allegedly assaulted and abused Kesha, and Katy Perry should be well aware of this and still chose to work with him on a song about feminism, no less, or rather feminism, which is really not a feminist thing to do. And to be honest, it's more like girl boss white feminism from 2008, pussy hat, nevertheless she persisted sort of feminism. It had nothing interesting to say, and both the song and the music video completely missed the mark and just dropped the ball, so people started to criticize it. And then when people started to criticize it, Katy Perry was like, no, it's satire. You guys just don't get it. And I'm just really tired of this happening. I feel like this happens so much when really shitty art is made and then people try to defend it by just saying that it's satire, which is not how satire works, by the way. So it's going at the bottom. Just do better, Katy Perry, do better. Now we have the man or bear social phenomenon. This was a viral social debate in which women were discussing whether they would rather run into a man alone in the woods or a bear alone in the woods. And a lot of them were choosing bear. And a lot of men were upset and completely missed the point because women were opening up about their own experiences. Like, sorry, not sorry, but men are scarier than bears, and they are also less predictable. Like, I can at least predict with a higher percentage of accuracy how a bear will react to me. But this was such a dreary social media discussion and didn't have the responses that we had hoped was gonna happen. So I'm gonna have to put this one at the bottom too. Next, we have lookalike contests, which is another relatively new thing that has happened this year. So this started when last month YouTuber Anthony Poe organized a Timothée Chalamet lookalike competition in Washington Square Park in New York City. There were other content creators that helped organize this and judge this, and on the day of, there was so much turnout. It got so crazy, and the police came and they were like, pack it up, so they had to move to a different location. And in the midst of all the chaos, Timothée Chalamet himself pulled up to the competition. People had a lot to say about the winner, but like, it sounds like it was just a very chaotic thing and the judges were doing their best. But this started a whole series of lookalike competitions around the world. Like, there was a Dev Patel one in San Francisco, Jungkook one in Chicago, a Harry Styles one in London. And you know what? Whatever gets people through these trying times. I don't feel any particular way about them. I'm gonna put in the third tier. Next is Joe Coy hosting the Golden Globes, which feels like forever ago because the Golden Globe Awards always happens at the very beginning of the year. So Joe Coy is a comedian and an actor, and he hosted the Golden Globes this year, and part of his monologue went viral. The part where he said the movie Oppenheimer is based on a 721-page Pulitzer Prize winning book about the Manhattan Project, and Barbie is on a plastic doll with big boobies.
Oppenheimer and Barbie are competing for cinematic box office achievement. Oppenheimer is based on a 721-page Pulitzer Prize-winning book about the Manhattan Project. And Barbie is on a plastic doll with big boobies.
And as one can imagine, in our blessed year 2024, this did not bode well because that is not what Barbie was about, and that was a very sexist joke. And like, sometimes comedians test out new material and they drop the ball. Sometimes that happens, that's okay. But a joke like that at an award show in front of the people who made that movie? Really? So yeah, this one has to go at the bottom. Now we have Moodeng and Pesto, these divas. Every so often on the internet, there is a new viral animal that everyone is obsessed with, like Grumpy Cat or Doug the Pug, and this year it was Moodeng and Pesto. Moodeng is this little grumpy baby hippo, and Pesto is this fluffy baby king penguin that is bigger than his parents. Well, he's not fluffy anymore because he's molting, but he's still bigger than his parents, and he was the fluffiest little baby. But I am obsessed with them. Penguins, you know, are so personal to me. I am a penguin mother myself, so I gotta put these icons at the very top. Next is the popularity of Nara Smith. So Nara Smith is a very popular model and influencer on TikTok, married to Lucky Blue Smith, who is also a model, and she is most well known for her cooking videos and making just about anything from scratch. And I think a lot of people were obsessed this year with Nara Smith lore, like the fact that she's 23, has multiple kids, is married, is Mormon. Also, there are so many Nara Smith parody videos poking fun at the way that Nara Smith and her husband Lucky present as a couple in their videos. But you know, I don't care about it. The parody videos are funny. I love the commitment to the bit, but like, I literally do not care about this, so I'm putting this at the third tier. And now we got the Kamala Harris "you think you fell out of a coconut tree" meme. This is the infamous meme from US Vice President Kamala Harris's speech ceremony for the White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity for Hispanics. In her speech, she talked about how she wants educational equity and how that can be achieved through financial resources, but also addressing cultural concerns or being aware of the cultural context of students and the communities that they come from. So she said, part of the extension of the work you will do is, yes, focused on our young leaders and our young people, but understanding we also then have to be clear about the needs of their parents and their grandparents and their teachers and their communities, because none of us just live in a silo. Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would just say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Which is fucking hilarious. I love every edit, every remix, every meme, every song made from this snippet. There is no place for this to go except the top. Now we've got the Drake and Kendrick beef. I don't even feel like going through all this drama. Basically, Kendrick Lamar started rap beef with Drake, but unfortunately there are a lot of serious allegations embedded within this drama. I don't even care about the beef. I just think that men need to be held more accountable. And that's my commentary. That's my take. But I am ranking the rap beef, not the allegations, just the rap beef. And you know what? I don't care. But also, I feel like I don't know enough of the nuances of this whole situation. Like, I'm just not the creator to speak on that. So, yeah, I'm just gonna put it in the middle. And third to last is Jennifer Lopez's viral clip from her documentary. So Jennifer Lopez this year had a documentary called This Is Me Now, A Love Story. And in one of her clips, she's at the gym and she's taking out her hair clip or hair tie or whatever. And she's talking about how her hair being in like the messy state that it is reminds her of being 16 and running in the Bronx and being a little crazy.
I like taking my hair out like this. It reminds me like when I was 16 in the Bronx, running up and down the block. A crazy little girl who used to
And TikTok ripped into her for trying to seem relatable and for it not landing because she does have a reputation for being very out of touch. And I thought it was funny at the time, but within the context of all these pop culture moments, like within the context of all in which this lives and what came before it, I just think it's okay. So I'm gonna put it in the third tier as well. Now, second to last is This Is Going to Ruin the Tour. So Justin Timberlake got arrested back in June for driving while intoxicated, and the police officer that pulled him over was too young to recognize him. So apparently while being arrested, Justin Timberlake was mumbling, "This is going to ruin the tour," and the police officer was like, "What tour?" And then Justin Timberlake was like, "The world tour," which sounds so unreal, so diabolical, but you know what? I gotta put it in the fourth tier. And finally, a late addition to this list is the Luigi Mangione Renaissance. If you do not know this man, I literally do not know how. He is the suspect charged with killing the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, last week. This happened last week. And like, I love the internet. All the mama I'm in love with the criminal memes have me keeling over and dying. But do I condone crime? No, never, obviously. But do I agree with this man's criticisms of Brian Thompson and the healthcare system in America? Yeah. So like, don't come at me, but the way that this has unified us, all of us, on American healthcare, kind of deserves a you know what, hell yeah. So that is my 2024 pop culture rankings. Mentally, I'm in orbit. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for supporting this channel. It means the world to me that you all go out of your way to hear me yap, and it is truly such a great honor. If this is the last video that I make this year, thank you so much again, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and I'll see you in the new year.